Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I will be showing you how to design your own Viking Peter the Penguin. I'm sorry that this video took so long to get out, but filming and editing takes a long time. And I'm also sorry that the video is so long, but that's how long the tutorial is. So this is a Viking Peter the Penguin that I made earlier today. So I'm just going to give you a quick look around him. He's got a helmet. So these are some other Peter the Penguins that have been made. He's teaching stuff. World Cup. And then he's got some armor. So you can see he's got like a hammer. He's got feet, a shield. This is all done in multicolor. I want to get this sent off to a printing service and get it printed. So this is a basic Peter the Penguin that I'm using as my base for all the other Peter the Penguins. So you can see he's made out of most of the simple parts. Nothing really involved in it. So you can see his eyes are two spheres. His beak is a pyramid rotated a little bit. The feet are, I think, are done pretty ingeniously. You can see it's just a bunch of cylinders that were smushed together to look like the feet. And so now I'm going to show you how to make one. Just got to group this entire thing. So I'm going to turn it back to multicolor because I honestly think it looks cooler that way. So you can see where I'm going to put him. So the first step would be making the helmet. So what you want to do is you want to get a sphere. As you can see, the sphere is the base shape for this. So I'm going to change the color so it looks more like a Viking helmet. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some boxes that are a hole. I'm going to make it half the size, and then I'm going to make it less than 1, so it's 9 millimeters. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to line it to the other side. So then once all of it looks like it's nice and aligned, so you can see there's one block off. So I can move that one more so it's all perfectly aligned. I'm going to take both of them, group them, and then once I have it, I'm going to move it up 2 millimeters. So there's like a 2 millimeter border on it. And I'm going to group all of that so it has that sort of T shape. I'm going to take another sphere, change the color, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Then I'm going to align the shapes so it is the same size in every direction. So this should be all nice and grouped. Then I'm going to use another sphere. Wait, but I realized I can use a pyramid for some more detailing on the crown instead of a sphere. I'm going to make it smaller so it's going to fit on it. I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to scale it down a little more. I'm going to align it as well as I can with the side. Then I'm going to make it even smaller so it's going to fit. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to smush it right into the side of it. So I didn't get it as smushed and as I wanted it to. So I'm going to lower the snap thing so then I can smush it in a little more. So that looks like a good amount. And then I'm going to move it back to 1mm. I can copy that, rotate it 180 degrees, and then move it all the way over to the other side. So now that I have this other spike, I'm going to change it back to 1.25mm of a snap, and then I'm going to smush it into the side. I'm going to move back to 1mm, and so I can see it's been aligned. I'm just going to make a box over it. I'm going to make sure it's aligned, then I'm going to group that. So now it's done halfway around, so I'm going to try to make as many as I have on the other one. So you can see I have the spikes and they're 180 degrees apart. I'm going to copy that again, and it looks like I'm having some computer problems. I'm gonna group that back together. I'm going to copy and paste that one more time. Rotate it 180. And now I'm going to get another box. I'm going to move it up 2mm. Going to align that to it, and then I'm going to group it, and then going to select both of them, and then align them, and this computer will respond. I'm just going to copy that so I can use it for later. Then I'm going to keep it like that. Going to align those and move them together. So now I have 4 spikes instead of 2. Then I'm going to copy that again. So now that I have this other one, I'm going to move it up 2mm, and I'm going to align it, and I'm going to group that. So now I have that bottom piece with 4 spikes. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. I'm going to align it one more time. So then now that I've grouped it, I have 8 spikes around the circle. And so now I'm going to try to work on putting some spikes on the top of it, which is why I have this other one on the side. So I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees, and then I'm going to move it up a little more. I'm going to move it up to make sure it's in there. I'm going to use the align tool. You can never align it too much. So once this computer responds, so then I'm going to move it down, trying to smush it in, but I'm going to do it at 0.25mm. So that's about smushed in pretty well. And so once this works, so going to group it all together, and then going to copy and paste it. So now I'm gonna cut it. Not sure if this is going to work, but it might. So then once I align it, I have 2 of them, which should subtract both of the sides from it. So I'm going to group it so I can see that one of them wasn't as far back as it should have. I'm going to ungroup it and expand it and make it go farther back. So then I'm going to group it again. So now I have this cross section of it. So now that I have this, I'm going to make it so it's 1 millimeter of it. So that leaves the spike there. And I'm going to group it. So you can see how it's only half the spike. So I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to try to move them at 45 in opposite directions. Going to try to align it. So I'm going to align it. So it doesn't look like it's going to align properly. So I don't think I'll be able to align it the way I designed it. I'm just going to delete these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it on both sides. Then it's only like a spike. I'm going to group it together. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to change the number. Then move it. I'm going to align it. So now it should be like one box going into the air. So I'm going to take that, going to rotate it 180. So this doesn't look like it's working. So then I'm going to rotate it again. So now it should be nice and aligned. Should be grouped. Now I'm going to align them. So now I have the spikes coming from on the sides. So you can see it's sort of sticking out of the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move it back to 1.2 so I can sort of align it more. So spikes are coming out of it more. So you can still see that there's a little bit of that ledge. You can tell me in the description what I could do better to get rid of that. So I'm going to group that. And then I'm going to move the entire box down 20 millimeters. Once it works. Okay. Just going to move it down. I'm going to move it back. I'm going to move it out. Then I'm going to group it. So now it looks like a helmet. So the next step is going to be making the horns on the side. So I'm going to use a banana from the shape generator library of them. So this is what will come out of it, and what you want to do is move around the sliders till you get a horn that you like. So this looks like pretty good horn going into the side. So now I just gotta figure out how to get those from the shape generator library into this. So then I can use it, but it doesn't seem to be working. This might take a little bit of time. I'm just gonna look through the code a little bit. I don't understand what it's doing, but I probably could figure it out. So you can see that would look good into the side of a helmet. I'm gonna play around with it to make it look good. So I'm going to go into the shape generators menu and just look for them. I'm going to try to find a banana one. Sorry, I'm not having very good luck finding it. Okay, so I'm just going to use this new banana because that should work. So I'm going to try to increase some of it. So that looks like a pretty good horn. I'm going to just work on changing it a little bit. So I'm going to move that there. I'm going to just bring the menu back to a different shape. I'm going to rotate it. So it's going to be roughly 90 degrees. I'm going to scale it down so it should fit on the side of it. So I'm going to move it up a little bit so I can align it with the side. So move it up a little more. Then I'm going to put that more into the side. I'm going to scale it down a little more. And I'm going to copy that, move it to the side. I'm going to flip it. So then I'm just going to align this, and they should be nicely aligned to it. I'm going to align it again, and then I'm going to make sure it's perfectly aligned, and then I'm going to group it. So you can see I have the finished helmet. So if you can see on the model, there are these little things that jut out of the side where the spikes are. It's probably because of the way I designed it and how everything didn't 100% line up. So we will now move the helmet onto the penguin's head. This is the step where you really pose your penguin to make him do what you want him to do. So I'm going to first move it atop his head. Then I'm going to rotate it because no hat is like that on someone's head. And so then I'm just going to look at it from the side to see which part looks the most natural. And so I'm going to move it down a little bit just so it looks like it's actually sitting on his head. So as you can see, this is the penguin. He doesn't look too perfectly positioned. So I'm going to try to group it and make sure everything is really well aligned. So now I'm just going to move things around, group things together to align them properly. And just going to do that, like, group in the eyes and the nose and grouping all of them together. So it turned white because it was all grouped, and it chose one color. So now I'm going to make sure to turn the colors back to multicolor. I love the multicolor because it just shows you how each shape was composed of other shapes. And then I'm just going to make sure everything is all nicely aligned. The align tool is awesome. I don't know what I would do without it. So we're just going to make sure everything's aligned, the feet are aligned, all that stuff. I don't want to have to send this to the printer and then it all be messed up. Just aligning everything. I'm going to just take some looks around it to make sure it's all good. Just got to declick. Tinkercad's been weird today. And then just got to do a home view. And so looks good. I'm going to group everything. So this is how I made the arms. I took a parabola, made it black, and scaled it, moved it around, did all of that stuff, scaled it down, made it look reasonably sized. So I'm going to make it a little longer so it's more arm fin shaped. And I'm going to delete it because I already have arms that are perfectly fine and they're well positioned. So then the next step is to make the shield. So you can see the shield on the other one. So I'm going to take a dome, flatten it down so it's more of a rounded cylinder. I'm going to make 3 of those. I'm going to make them all different colors. These are going to be the 3 colors that make up the shield. So they're white, orange, and a darker orange. So they're making sure that they're all the same sized. So I'm going to take a hole out of the center so it's the outer ring of it. And then I'm going to take a block to make what I call a cookie cutter. I'm going to make sure everything's aligned so it's all nice and centered. So then you have that little outer ring. I'm going to make the cylinder higher. I'm going to align it. This is what I call a cookie cutter, where you can use it to cut out the shapes inside of the workspace because there's no intersect feature like Fusion 360. So now I'm just going to group these together, and then I'm going to turn this whole thing into a hole. I'm going to align it. Now I'm going to group it, and this makes a shape that will perfectly fit in that cavity. So it's all nice and aligned. You can see it. It's all should fit. I'm going to make 2 of those, and then I'm going to just move the hole around the white object. I'm going to group them because I want to have 2 same size but different color discs so I can make up the little cross on the shield. So Tinkercad's taking a little bit of time to respond. So you can see that they're both the same sized. This is what I'll be using to make up the little cross pattern. I'm going to take a hole, and I'm going to try to take out one sort of quadrant of it. I'm going to make 4 of these, so it's all even and matching. And take those, I'm going to group them. I'm going to take other ones, match it up, making sure it's all the same size. I'm going to move it so it makes a similar cut on the other side. So I'm going to group these so then it's all a grouped whole. Going to move it out of the way, and then I am going to make a copy of that. I'm going to align them so I can have the white as the center part. You see it fits right inside. Now the next step is going to make the orange parts to fit inside of that gap. Turns out I actually don't need that. I'm just going to take the white part, turn it into a hole, and I'm going to align all of that. Going to group, leaving me 4 orange parts that fit right inside of what I have so far of the shield. I'm going to change the colors because I want the center part to be orange. You can make this any color that you want. I'm going to align it all. Group those 2 parts. I'm going to make sure it's multicolor. Otherwise, what's the point of doing all these steps? I'm going to align them to the outer ring. Then group those. And then you can see the shield, how it's turned out. You can see how it was a formerly squished dome. You can see how it came from that. I'm just going to delete that. So I'm going to manipulate the size a little bit to, to just play around with it, see what looks good. And then the next step is going to be putting it on his arm. I'm going to raise it up. I'm going to rotate it somewhere around 90 degrees. I'm going to sort of smush it into his arm, wherever seems like a good place. I'm going to rotate it a little bit to make it seem more realistic. No human's going to be holding it perfectly perpendicular to the ground. So I want to emulate that as much as possible. So I'm just going to move it around a little more, see what looks good. So I want to rotate it just a little more to the side. So I'm just taking looks around it, making sure everything is perfectly fine. Now the next step is going to make the hammer. So I'm going to start out with a box. The first step I'm going to do is make it more of a stone iron color. I'm going to scale it down to a proper size for a hammer of that type. Going to elongate it more so it's less of a cube. I'm going to take this hole, I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees to add those chamfers to the side. Just going to add another one to the other side. I'm going to align it. I'm going to group those so it's one tool. So now the next step is to duplicate it and move it down so it does the chamfers on both sides. I'm going to take those, I'm going to align them, make sure everything's all aligned. And then I'm going to align that with the hammer so it's the same chamfer on every side. Don't want a differential chamfer. So we have the chamfers to 4 edges so far. You can see how it's coming along. I'm going to take another hole, rotated another 45 degrees to add more chamfers. I'm going to try to get it as close to the ones that I already have, but that might be a little hard. I'm just going to take 2 of them, align them, making sure they're all even, group that, and I'm going to move it over to get a better chamfer. Then I'm going to move that and try to make the chamfer as even as possible. I'm going to duplicate that, move it down so it does the chamfers on all of those sides. I'm going to align them and then group. Then I will align it with the hammer so I can all group it. Tinkercad is a little slow today. So now I have that. I'm going to align it with the hole tool. and then going to groove it to get that chamfer on the side. So now you have a more finished hammer. Put in another 4 chamfers. Only 4 more to go. Now I'm gonna get another whole tool, rotate it in 45 degrees in a different axis, and align it so it looks a lot more even. I'm going to duplicate that, align it with that for the other side. Then I'm going to group those two, and then I'm going to duplicate it, move it down so it has it on the bottom part of it. Once I have that, I will align them, and then I'm going to group them so I can align it with the hammer. And I'm going to make sure it's aligned on all axes. I'm going to group that. So those chamfers were a little bit larger than I wanted. So I'm going to go back and change the sizes of it to make it a little less of a chamfer. So just going to group the 2 side ones. I think that will make it easier to manipulate the chamfer amount. I'm going to group those, align it, and then going to take some looks at it just before I group it. Then I'm going to group it, and that is the completed hammerhead. So this is the handle of the hammer. It is a brown cylinder. I'm going to squash it down till it is proportional to it. I'm going to make it roughly 2 millimeters thick so I can possibly get it printed in full color. I'm going to align them so it's all even, and the handle looks a little weird compared to the hammer. So I'm going to modify the snap size. I'm going to move it down a little bit so it's sort of protruding out of the top. And then Tinkercad's been acting up today. So then I'm going to move it back to 1 millimeter. That could mess things up in the future. So I'm going to group it, and then I'm going to change it to multicolor so it has that look. And it looks more like a hammer. I'm going to make sure it's all aligned before I 100% group it. I'm going to make the handle longer because it didn't seem very proportional. I'm going to group it, make sure it's multicolor. Then I'm going to rotate it 180 so it's in the orientation that a handle would likely be. And then I'm going to move it into the hand, and I'm going to just pose it around to see whichever looks the most natural for a Viking penguin going into battle. I'm just going to move it around, look around it to make sure that that looks good. I'm going to group it, and that is what we have so far of our penguin. So just going to look around it, make sure that every part of it is good. And so I'm going to make this sort of chest piece that the first guy has. I'm going to start with a sphere, and then I'm going to change the color to white, and then I'm going to copy it and make it red. So I'm going to take a hole that is the same size of it. I'm going to scale it down so that there should be, when you have 4 of them, there should be roughly a 2 millimeter border around it. So then I'm just going to copy that, move it till it's aligned with it, make another one, put it in the other quadrant, and then make a 4th one. So then I'm going to group that all as one piece. So then I have that sort of cross piece. I'm going to turn that into a hole and align it with the red sphere. And then there's that shape cut out of it. I'm going to align those two and then group it. So I'm going to make it multicolor, and I'm going to rotate it so the cross is pointing outwards. I'm going to move it. I'm going to squish it down a little bit. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to move it into the penguin's stomach. I'm just going to look at it from every angle, see what looks the best for this part. And I'm going to change the snap grid so I can get a lot more freedom with the positioning. I'm going to move back to 1 millimeter. So I'm just going to look around, make sure everything's good. I'm going to group that all into one object. Now, this is the finished one that you should have when you're finished. You can also apply this to other things. And so, you got the shield, the hammer, the helmet. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had a fun time making your own Peter the Penguin. Please like and subscribe for more videos. And if you want me to do anything for YouTube video, make sure to comment that down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on printing.